On today's episode of Cool Cars with Chris, Courage explains how he was working on his Hyundai Elantra N series car, doing a brake job by himself. Did it go over well? Well, find out what happened on this episode. Plus, somehow, Courage got himself invited to go to a Hyundai Elantra N series Enthusiast community drive up in Los Angeles. You'll hear all that great story of all the places he went to, things he saw, things he did, all that up in LA for all those people who have a Hyundai Elantra N series car. And then topping it off, we're discussing what does it mean when you prioritize personal enjoyment in the car culture community? Do you need to spend all this money on extra stuff for your car? Is it worth it? Is it worth it to you? Find out all this and more on this episode. Let's go. All right, welcome back, everybody. Today, we have a very special episode with a very special co-host of the show, Courage, the wonderful Courage himself, driving all over the world in his wonderful Speed Demon, the Hyundai N series car. How you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. I wouldn't stretch it all the way across the world, but I've been putting some miles on for sure. But as usual, always love being on, so appreciate you having me on.
I remember last time I talked to you, you were working on something on the car. What was you working on lately? You had to get something done.
Oh, so I did brakes for the first time.
That's right. How'd that go?
Yeah, changed all my brake pads. They went well. It took longer than expected.
It always does, dude, doesn't it?
Anything that I anticipate doing, I just say it's just gonna take me longer than whatever it says it's gonna take.
Dude, I used to have those same problems when I had my Z, and I would work. I had the same schedule I have now, so I worked in the afternoons and evenings. So I would think I give myself a 2-hour window to do some job on the car. And then I'd be so frustrated because I would be running late and all that. But luckily I had my other truck to take to work. So I didn't have to take the car or what I was on jacks or whatever, But anyways, you were working on your car.
Yeah, no, and I basically had it up there for 2 days. I don't remember. That might have been that weekend where it was raining, and so I put it up on jack stands on Saturday. Did an oil change since it was already going to be lifted and everything. And the second day was when I did the brakes, and the brakes they went fine. I've known how to do it on other cars and everything. But the interesting thing now is that I'm getting some squealing from the brakes.
Oh no.
And I'm gonna probably have to kind of take them out and see if they're seated properly, because they work well. I even bled the brakes and everything. The pedal feels great, but every once in a while, I think when they heat up, they tend to start to squeal a bit. So it will probably have to do that again at some point.
It's funny you say that because my Z had the same problem. When I bought my Z, they supposedly changed the brakes, they said, but it just squealed the entire time I owned the car, after I got from them. And then I finally took it in, and they had to do a whole brake job at another shop. But it's funny you said that same thing. After they said they changed them, it was squeaking, which is weird. It was
still squealing. Yeah. It just, for the life of me, I don't know, because they look like they're seated fine. The first 100 or 200 miles, I had no issues with them. I was braking fine. I didn't hear anything. And then after about 200 to 300 miles, I would hear this noise, and I'd be like, "What is that?" And I would roll the window down, and I'd hear it. And when I step on the brake fully, it'd go away. And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to figure this out."
You mean when you light pressure, you start to hear it more?
Yeah, and so the in cars too, they actually have sort of this active braking when you let off of the accelerator. So they're basically when it knows that you're sort of decelerating, it kind of lightly applies the brake.
That would be annoying though.
And you don't really feel it, but the issue now is because it's actually doing that. When you're just coasting, a lot of times is when I start to hear it, because it's only lightly applying it. And so that's the point where if I'm going down a hill or something, I start to hear it squealing because it's just lightly putting the brakes on. And so I know it's something really simple that when I get in there, some people even apply this certain type of fluid or whatever that helps them seat properly. And I didn't do that. So there's always lessons learned with everything do. But
are those Brembos?
They actually have kind of manufactured their own sort of Hyundai. Actually, I just really learned this, that they manufacture their own steel and some other things that they do, and so it's kind of their own kind of brake, kind of setup that they use.
Interesting.
they had I used aftermarket pads. They're kind of a mixture of like sort of a track ready pad, but also still streetable. And so that's where you kind of run into the issue where it can, since it's not an OEM pad, sometimes there's just weird quirks at how they seat when they actually get settled into their little spots and things. So
that's kind of interesting. Kind of wonder, what's the difference between a track ready pad and like a regular pad? Like, what's the difference?
Usually it's just like a compound difference, and just that they're able to handle heat. They're better at heat management. And so that's what I understand of. There's probably different intricacies to it. But
I know. I worked at the parts store, and I remember they have like the cheapy pads, and then they have like the higher dollar pads. They had this different. I worked at a Napa store, so Napa they had, I believe, it's been so long ago. They had like their basic brand, and they had like the higher tier level brand, almost like a basic and a premium version. And I forget the different version. Maybe one was silver, maybe one was gold. I forget, but it was something like that. I remember. And they had the different pads and different brake drums and shoes and all that kind of stuff. And it was all like the different levels of ones that people were buying and stuff like that. So,
yeah. But and Napa was intense because they always have way more than like your standard like AutoZone or. Oh yeah,
I delivered to a lot. We went to a lot of like trucking yards and things for like tractors and semi trucks and like trailers and things of that sort too. So it was more than just your typical like car parts. Oh, they did sell car parts. We did deliver to a lot of like car shops and stuff too, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff too. So, but you got that all figured out, but you still got the squealing on the car, and that does kind of suck. But other than that, how's the car doing? Is it running okay?
Other than that, it's solid as a rock, man. The 2's been doing well. The JV4 has been doing well.
No issues there.
No issues there. Which is interesting because I have been hearing some other stories about some other folks with some tunes kind of run into some things. And so, again, it's you got to kind of take the risk in terms of, kind of going that route. But it's been solid. Like I said, we've put one weekend, I think not this weekend, but the weekend before, I think we had driven a total of like 300 miles.
Wow.
In that weekend going to LA, going down to San Diego. It was something else we did. Oh, we went to Paris. We went to another little event or something like that. Paris, California, not the Paris.
Well, I know.
Didn't throw the car on a boat and or on a plane and ship it over. But yeah, I've been putting a lot of miles. The funny thing about it is I told you I did that oil change at that point, and I already have gotten another alert that it's time to change my oil.
Really?
And I thought that it was because I do it every 3,000 miles. And it's kind of recommended, especially too now that I'm pushing a bit more boost to do it around those intervals.
Yeah, if you put more wear and tear on the engine, it's gonna go through the oil quicker.
Yeah. So, but it just surprised me because I was like, dude, I just did this. But when I looked at the mileage and I was like, okay, well, I guess I really have been driving this much. And so that'll probably be next weekend's project. I already got the oil, and I usually get a couple of filters when I go to the dealership over here. So she'll be back up on jack stands pretty soon, I guess you can say.
Now, you do use the full synthetic for that thing, right?
Full synthetic, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those things can take higher heat, higher oil heat. Does your car have an oil cooler on it?
It probably does. I'm sure like there's some kind of heat extraction for the particularly for the oil. I'm not too
what's the highest RPM you ever really run it at? When you are running it hard, what do you keep it at?
It maxes at like 6,900 RPM.
That's redline?
Yeah, 68 or 6,900.
Yeah, with my Z, it used to get hot. That was one thing notorious for those Z cars was that the oil would get really hot and shut the car and put it in limp mode. I never got it quite that hot, but I did get it pretty hot though. I mean, I think it got to like 260 degrees oil. I thought maybe that's all right.
Oh yeah. In terms of temps, that's about the same. Like I've got on like maybe a kind of spirited canyon drive. I've gotten up to about 230 to 240.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, it was in the twos for sure. And I think someone said 260, it shuts down. I think I saw a post where someone said that the car does go in limp mode when you get to like 260 maybe, or maybe higher. And I know that I was looking at some oils, and some of the synthetics can run 300 or whatever. With full synthetic oil, they're designed to run at high temperatures. That's why you probably need them in cars like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a question too, and yeah, because that's a really good, because operating temp is actually kind of around 195 to like 205 is kind of where it's like it's happy spot just in normal driving. If you really start to get on it, you start to climb up to like 217 or 220, and then like I said, yeah, like if you're really kind of on it, at least like on a hotter day, on a back road drive or something like that, I've seen up to about 230 or 240. But 260 is like where I've seen that cutoff. But there have been questions too, because, and not to get too in the weeds on this, but the manufacturer recommends zero weight 30.
That's pretty thin.
In terms of oil. Yeah. In terms of, and that's weird for me because all the cars I've ever owned have always been 5 weight 30. And what I've heard is actually folks that are tuned, they actually end up going with the 5 weight 30 with these cars particularly. And I haven't done that because they say that really, unless like climate is a big situation where, you are getting, you're in freezing temps or you're in like very low temps, things like that, or you're trying to stretch your oil change intervals out a lot, that, really if you're changing it out pretty often, it's not as big of a deal.
I would think not. If you're changing out your oil pretty quick, pretty like every 3,000 or even every 1,000 miles, let's just say 1,000 mile oil changes, you probably can use whatever. I mean, I ain't gonna say whatever, but it doesn't matter as much. But the thing about the oil, I was gonna say, is that, you're going every 3,000. Is it recommended 3,000 or is it recommended like 5,000?
They do actually, yeah. Even stock in the manual is sort of recommended between 3,000 to 5,000. Given that it's tuned, like, you would think maybe you would do it even sooner than that. But, it is recommended kind of to have it, have your intervals around that 3,000 mark.
And if you were to change, now this goes for any car, not just your car, but any car in generally speaking. If you were to change your oil with a different weight of oil and something were to happen to your car, would that be covered under warranty or no?
That's a very interesting question, and the reason that it's interesting to me is because there's actually because there's different models of the Elantra that aren't the N version take different oil weights, and there's been situations where dealers have not been putting the oil recommended for the N cars into the N cars. So and then later on down the road, there's issues that pop up. And people have found out that they actually weren't using, they were maybe even using like a conventional oil and not a full synthetic. Yeah. So I definitely think that it's a factor that if you're deviating from the owner's manual at the end of the day, they could, kind of say that, oh, this contributed to such and such. But it's pretty crazy too that, in some off cases that, again, the dealers just were using the different oil, and then issues happen. Like, how do you prove that, and how do you maybe get your rightful justification for that? So
that's crazy. That's all crazy, dude. So your car's running decently well. You put a lot of miles on it. So where did you go with your car? Like, you drove the thing to LA, you said, and San Diego, but you drove it to LA particularly. What's going up in LA? What's up there? What's going up there today? Or recently? Yeah,
like we joked, I guess I live there now. Like,
I think you do. Are you looking for a place up there?
I'm starting to just know the lay of the land and know certain landmarks.
What's your favorite freeway? What's your least favorite freeway?
Yeah, it's been exclusive to, I think, like the 110 or the
110.
110 is like one, I guess, that I get on at some point. I don't know them all too well. It's like
from your place. What is it? 91.
So I take the 15 to the 91, and then that's when it gets kind of confusing because it depends on traffic and time of day where it'll kind of route you certain ways to kind of avoid traffic.
Oh yeah, you use like a Waze app or Apple app or Map app or something. What is your favorite traffic app you like to use?
Oh, I'm all Google Maps.
Google Maps. I have it installed, but I don't really use it. I think I have Waze too.
You're the second person in a couple of days that said that, and I've sworn by Google Maps forever.
I think the reason I use the Apple one, because I'm just such an Apple fanboy, I guess. Everything's like in the ecosystem. So somebody texts me an address, I click on it, pull it up on the map, it's there, hit go. It's, it's all like set up that way. I guess you probably can do it with your Apple, your Google one too.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of set up that way. And I just do it like that. And I just been, for me, it's like about simplicity, I think, people say the Google stuff's better or whatever, and this and that, who knows, but I think it's where like Apple stuff, everything seems to work across multiple platforms very easily. And I have Apple CarPlay and plug the phone in.
Well, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, though, it works. For example, if you're with outside of it, like, again, using if you use like an Android or whatever, you're kind of forced to use like either like Google Maps or Waze or whatever. But yeah, I feel like, to your point, like when you're in the Apple ecosystem, like you have an iPhone, you have, you have a Mac, you kind of have even the watch. Like I used to actually use the GPS on my watch and kind of have it synced with my phone. And it would do this little vibrate thing where it alerts you where like it's time to make a turn or whatever. I feel like when you're using multiple devices on like an Apple platform, it kind of is kind of the go-to. The only reason I guess that I've stuck with Google Maps is, well, I guess because it was really the first that I kind of started using. But it's kind of worked both when I've had like an Android phone and when I've like switched over to Apple.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, how does it compare to the Apple version though? For driving.
I haven't used it a lot. There's few situations where if somebody sends me something, sends me a location, that it'll default it to open it up in Apple Maps and then I'll use it. But for the most part, I'm usually always using Google Maps. But Google Maps has a few quirks that are interesting to me where they started implementing sort of like Waze, where, Waze, I think, really got popular because people were able to like pinpoint like, hazards on the road and point out police on the road and different things like that. And so Google Maps started trying to, kind of bring that into their system. And it works well in a sense where like it does give you alerts to, approaching policemen or approaching Romar. Yeah. But the weird thing is that if you have a car that's equipped with Apple CarPlay and you're using Google Maps and it like tries to give you those alerts, it'll give you the alert, but it doesn't tell you how far away say the policeman is or like the road obstruction is. It just tells you, it asks you if like the road obstruction is still there or the policeman's still there, but it doesn't like give you any alert to say like we're expecting it to be in like 300 feet or like a mile or whatever.
What does Google refer to? Because on Apple they refers to it as a speed check. What does it call on the Google side?
I think they say speed trap or something like that. I can't even remember because I haven't really gotten now that we're talking about it, I realize I haven't gotten an alert in a little while.
Maybe it's not turned on or something because when I go to LA, I see them all the time. I see them all the time. And sometimes you'll say it and you look around, and there's a cop right there on the side of the road. I see him. There he is. Okay, great.
Yeah. And then the alert will drop off. Like I've had that happen where like it was like, oh yeah, it's approaching, I don't see it. And then the moment where I saw it, I'm like going to press it and the alert leave, it's gone.
But have you ever made the alert on your Apple, on your CarPlay?
Actually been the one to report it?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I've never been a contributing member of society that way.
I see when you click on, listen, Apple, I only use the Apple side. When you click on the Apple map, there's a little like button you click on and it's like a more button, click for more. And you open it up and then it's like a push buttons for alerts. I think it might give you a few choices like accident reported, speed trap reported or whatever. I think it might be it. But or as traffic or something. But anyways, you can on there when you pass by, you click on it and that's how it all feeds the system. That's how Waze works. That's how they all work. Is that us users on the road see the thing and we're constantly alerting. So you're listening at home right now. If you see something, you got to alert on your
you have to go see something, say something.
Well, no, I mean, because we're on the lookout for, cops with the radar guns and things like that. Like the only way we're going to beat them is if we all know they're going to be there, kind of thing. So if you can alert the system, if you pass by one who's hiding and you hit the alert button, that alerts everybody else who's using the same system. So like, hey, what's up? Look out, he's coming for you kind of thing. And what's funny is that every time you drive by one, like everybody checks their speedometer, hits their brakes. I do the same thing too.
I'm telling, you can maybe say that I'm being maybe a little too bold in that, but like when I see that somebody actively is doing that, I will go around them. Like I've had that happen where like I'm in the fast lane and I've seen the cop coming, and we're probably going like 75, maybe 80 or so, like maybe a little under that. And then I see the guy in front of me start to do that. Like I'll go around him because I'm like, at this point, the radar already got both of us. So like us slowing down right now is not doing either one of us any good. And
Yeah,
so,
but if he's going to go chase somebody, he's probably going to catch the slowest guy.
I'm good.
Or fastest guy. Maybe the fastest guy.
I'll tell this because it's been a few months since this happened. I was driving up just locally here in Temecula area, and there was a guy in like a pickup truck, and we were at a stoplight. This is like, late afternoon, kind of the evening time frame. And we have a spot like where sometimes police kind of hang out. And actually this guy, the police, because we don't have like our own police department here in Temecula. The sheriff basically, sheriffs come through and they just kind of patrol the areas and things. But I had noticed a sheriff, kind of pulling out of one of the side streets a couple of blocks back. And I didn't think much of it because I was still just on the main road. But we stopped at the stoplight and, I was in front, another car was next to me. And I start to go and we're, me and the other guy are like neck and neck. And I noticed the guy in the pickup truck is like on me. Like he's just waiting for that little bit of an edge so he can kind of just, shoot between me and the guy that's next to me. And I'm like kind of giving him a little space, but it's like, come on, dude, like we're going up a hill. We're going to get to a light when we get up at the top of the hill. Like, what's the rush? So, at a certain point when he was getting like pretty obnoxious, like getting really close on my bumper, maybe not the right thing to do, but I kind of put my foot down a little bit. Like I took off up the hill, and I kind of gapped him a little bit. I'll just be honest. And so we made it. I changed lanes. I let him pass me once I finally got up because I saw that the light was red. And so he came by. He kind of looked and he just like stopped at the stoplight. And then I see the cop that I passed a few blocks back. He was behind him. And so right when the light turned green, I start to go and he lights up his lights and pulls that guy over.
Really?
But doesn't pull me over. and to this day, I'm like kind of curious. Like, I don't know if he maybe just didn't see me take off or like if he kind of saw the whole thing kind of transpire and see like how he was just kind of pushing me to like get out of the way. But it was one of those situations where I was like, oh, well, guess I got kind of lucky. Right? In that situation, but got to still be careful out there. I'm not condoning that behavior at all.
Oh,
but
of course not. Of course, we do not condone speed racing and getting crazy and beating lights and flipping off cops. Don't do that. Yeah. Don't do stuff like that. Don't honk your horn at cops and wave at them. Don't even wave at a cop, really, tell you the truth, because they'll pull you.
Don't even say hi.
Don't even nothing to a cop, because it happened to me one time. I had my windows tinted in my truck, and they were just low enough to where you can see the window was tinted. Like you rolled the window down enough, and my buddy decided to wave at a cop in a highway patrol of not all of us in a parking lot, and they pulled up behind me and said, "We need to talk about your window tint," and I'm gonna give me a ticket for that. Man. And I'm like, don't even acknowledge.
Don't even acknowledge,
or whatever. So, but anyways, you're up in LA. So where did you go, man? What'd you do up there?
So, yeah, I think we talked about it. I've had a few interesting events up there, car related, which is pretty cool. First weekend, and maybe we can graze over this because, this is just one of those, if you just got to go to see it type situations. But I went to the Peterson Museum.
Where is that located in LA?
That's like kind of downtown LA. I think it's pretty close to the convention center, because a month prior to that, we actually went up there for the LA Auto Show, which is more so building the case that I'm an LA-an, I guess you can say.
Well, if you live in the culture, if you live in the Temecula area, I would think LA is kind of just adjacent. Temecula is adjacent to LA.
Yeah, but it just takes so long to get there, like on a regular.
But why do so many people live? A lot of people live in Temecula who work in LA.
It's true. Yeah. Like Corona, LA, Santa Ana area. Like that's why I feel like the 91 gets so jammed up, is because people are going in that direction to go there from Temecula and like Menifee and Winchester and all of those. But
I know homes are much cheaper in the Temecula, Menifee area, and that whole area up there. It's very cheap. Well, not very cheap, but it's much cheaper than buying a place in the LA proper, I guess you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, and then
my choice of big city is definitely San Diego, though. I'm just going to put that out
well,
there.
there you go. We welcome you. Welcome everybody. Come on in, more the merrier. Why not?
I started in San Diego first, so I still claim San Diego, even though we're technically Riverside County. I lived in San Diego for about 12 years, so which is crazy to think, but I still feel a part of San Diego.
Well, I'm not leaving, dude. Unless I have to. You can drag my dead, cold body out of here if you want to. I have been born and bred San Diego, and I don't plan on ever leaving. I think the thing about San Diego is that I think it's home for me. I lived here my whole life. I'm familiar with everything here. I know how to get around. I work here. I do a lot of stuff here in town. Yeah. And I think it's just, I know it's expensive here. I get it. Trust me, I know, And so, but I think it's just home for me. And I can't imagine living anywhere else.
I really love that. Like, I feel like there's a weird pride when I think about, again, because I still claim San Diego. When I think about the fact that I live in San Diego, I have little moments where it's I lived in San Diego, or I go to San Diego often because I just feel like San Diego is it's one of those places that everybody wants to come to, whether you live in California or you're traveling from somewhere else, like another state or whatever, San Diego is just a place that people want to come to. And to say that, for us, we live 30 minutes away, so we still feel like we're a part of that, or to, again, be born, bred and still live there. I don't know. There's just some kind of pride that I felt, being a part of that. Even being from Northern California, being from Oakland, San Francisco area, I use not to down it at all, but I get proud to say that I've lived on this end, this Southern California end for 15 years now at this point.
Well, look at that. Well, honest take, much better. Yeah, much better down here. It's much better.
Don't offend your Northern California listeners, but I'm on it.
And it's much better. They can drive. There's roads. Come on down. I have never taken the drive, but I've taken the flight. I mean, I've flown up to San Francisco. I mean, I'm familiar, with the area. But yeah, I mean, San Diego's great. I love San Diego. Right now, it's supposedly quote unquote winter time.
Yeah,
and it's sunny and warm outside or whatever. We're gonna get some rain soon probably. But I mean, look at the East Coast or look at the Northwest or whatever, and see blizzards and snow and people doing crazy slides down roads with the brakes on. They can't control. They're colliding with everybody. Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. I see videos like that and I just think I would just be so irritated if I'm in a situation where I just have, obviously you're probably scared. You're probably you're probably trying to do something, but when you realize, when you come to the realization that you just can't do anything about this collision that's about to happen, I would just be frustrated. Right.
And I think living in a place like that, it's going to be very hard to be a car guy or girl. In a place, especially if you have a lowered car with summer tires and you have the springs, the coilovers, the whole thing. You're not taking that thing out in the snow. You can't.
Yeah.
Unless you got special snow tires, maybe it's a Subaru or even a GTR with all-wheel drive. Something like that would probably do very well in places like that, I guess, because of the all-wheel drive. But I think it's something when you're in a car culture here, go to Cars and Coffee and things here. Something like that you don't really think about, or have to really think about living in a city like this. So when you're in LA, going to the museum, what kind of cool things were in the museum? Was there things that stood out to you? There was special car? Was it all cars or the other things too? Was it airplanes and boats or just cars?
No, it was pretty, kind of centralized to cars and motorcycles.
That's it. Yeah.
They had a pretty cool motorcycle display. I didn't spend too much time there, but it was pretty cool to see some really, really classic motorcycles up to, kind of, 80s, 90s, kind of newer motorcycles as well.
Do you remember that TV show that they had Knight Rider had a car, but was there a version of that with a motorcycle? I forget what it was called. It was something in the 80s. It was there's Knight Rider, then there was a motorcycle version of it.
Huh. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, it was kind of over the top with the motorcycle had machine guns and crazy stuff on it and all that kind of stuff. typical kind of whatever. I remember seeing like a, episode of it or whatever. But so cars like that, it's pretty cool. So did you
Yeah.
sit in these cars or all roped off?
No, for the most part, they're all behind. I mean, I can't even imagine what the total collection that they have in that museum is what it's worth. But yeah, a lot of these cars are pretty special. There was one Lightning McQueen like replica that was pretty cool. They allow you to touch and you kind of take pictures and lean on it, which is pretty cool. But I saved my highlights for that because they do have some modern cars there. It's not just purely classics and things like, they have some modern supercars, some modern muscle cars. Like if they were kind of movie related, you tend to see some modern muscle cars. The 80s kind of section, 80s to early 90s little room was pretty cool because it's like not only just car themed 80s, deals, but they also had like, authentic like 80s video game arcade, setups and just different things that were part of like 80s culture. And there was
That's
just a whole
cool
room dedicated to that. But I was like, I was blown away by, there was the sort of Aston Martin room.
Ooh.
You walk in and it was behind. We were already kind of amazed because they had like this one like the flathead hot rod from the original Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie.
Oh yeah,
where Tony's in the garage kind of doing his things, and I think it's the one he fell on like with his suit or whatever. But obviously this one wasn't it. But they had that there, and then they had Herbie the Beetle kind of situated as well in the same room. They had one of the original prototype Tesla Roadsters, that just all kinds of just a hodgepodge of all different kinds of cars and things. But in the Aston Martin room, as you walk in, they kind of hide it away because you have to kind of walk through to see it. But right as you come in and you turn to the left is just a immaculate DB5 Aston Martin from like the original James Bond.
Wow.
Just super well lit, well displayed. I was just staring at it. Like you just walk in and you're just amazed by it.
What is that thing worth if you're to buy it?
I have no idea. That would be a good question. Good question to answer.
Probably priceless. I mean, they always say, "Oh, it's priceless. It's priceless. Can't buy this."
Yeah, well, yeah, for an authentic, like non-restored. I mean, maybe even if it was restored, that. I mean, it definitely is just something where it's like it's hard to maybe put a value around it.
If you had a car like that, would you drive it or just keep it in the garage?
Not if it was like not if it was one that was like a low mile like example, and honestly, even if it was, I mean, low miles relatively speaking, I mean it was now it's like a 50-year-old car. So
that's the thing. If you have a collectible car that is literally a collectible and it's got low miles on it, it's worth say $1 million, whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
it's like. What do? You're supposed to drive a car to keep the fluids going, right? A car that sits, it's not going to be any good. So you have to keep I think you probably take it out twice a year, maybe or something like that. But you have to do something with it, and you want to keep it in your garage and show it off. Put it in your living room or whatever you have a big enough place, and just keep it there. I've seen people do that on YouTube or whatever. They have like these collections where they have a car like in their living room. I saw this one where this guy, some rich guy like Dubai or something, he put it like some big penthouse skyscraper, put like a car. In like with a crane or something, and put it in his living room or whatever kind of thing. Like it's something you could never ever like use. You know what I mean? It now becomes a physical like prop for your house.
You're taking it to like specific events where you're highlighting it. It's not just something you're just hopping in to go on a drive or go run errands. Like
which kind of in theory defeats the purpose of a car.
Yeah, there's and that's a good point. That there's a certain point where like a car unfortunately is not performing the function of being a car because say it's too special or like you're just trying to preserve it.
I get it. Like if I spend a lot of money on something, I'm gonna make sure this thing is like as pristine and perfect as I can possibly make it. And
I think it's twofold though, because I mean, there's like the exotic sports cars that you can buy that you can still spend a lot of money on. You can buy a modern Lamborghini or modern Ferrari and spend a couple $100,000 on it, which sounds crazy, but I mean people do it. But that like a more modern Ferrari or Lamborghini that's still in production could be replaced. You could.
Oh, so you're saying a car that's an exotic car that's kind of a rare older car that's probably if this thing gets in an accident or something happens to the thing,
you probably couldn't replace that car. Like you probably couldn't find the parts for it to even have it repaired properly. Like it could literally just be a total loss in the sense where like there's just no physical way that like we can recreate this car back again. And to try and then maybe find another one is again, now you're dealing with other people that also have this sort of priceless car that can kind of name their price in this scenario. Like I think when you're dealing with these like older, very special cars, like you're kind of gambling with the fact that like you're holding a piece of history that probably can't be recreated the way that it was before if anything happens to it. Versus like a new modern car where if it's still in production, like there's most likely a way that if it was if it's not total, that there would be a way to recreate that car, or you'd be able to buy another one.
I'm sure the insurance companies love that. Like I don't even know how
the whole "you hit what" meme.
I don't even know how like say you have like $1 million car, right? Even if it's a newer car, whatever, and you total a thing. Like, what is the insurance company supposed to do? Do they even insure that, or maybe you self-insure, or maybe they say, well, we can't insure this, so enjoy.
Usually with those, I know that there's certain companies that have more of like a stated value type of insurance for cars like that, and so they don't operate like a more traditional auto insurance situation. Like you basically sort of negotiate the value, but they have records of values of cars and things, so they know kind of where certain cars sit. But if your stated value is agreed upon, then if something happens, they agree that is the value of the car,
and they'll write you a check for that amount of money.
And they'll write you a check, and
they'll probably drop you right after that. Say, see you later.
I would wonder how that works out. Like how future.
Dude, insurance companies love taking money, and they hate. Then they say, "Oh, we'll pay out we'll fix you all your stuff." But when it comes,
they love taking money, but they hate giving it to you.
Right. I mean, but that goes for anybody, really. I mean, a lot of people like taking money, and like everyone's getting a paycheck. Everybody hates paying bills. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it.
That's life.
So you're up there. Now, in the span of the same day or same weekend, did you go to this N event?
No, so that was a separate weekend. That was the following weekend, I think. Or no, that was a 2-week gap, I think, between the two. But the N event was pretty mind blowing, I'm just gonna say.
So to back everybody up here, so you have your Hyundai Elantra N series car. You've had tunes done to it. I've ridden the car. It's very fast. It's very fun. You've taken it to the drag strip. You've done some work on the car. You did an oil change with it. You've changed the brakes, sort of. And so, and then you've done some stuff to the car. And somehow you found out that there was a Hyundai N series, like an N Club event up in LA.
Yeah. So, I guess not to make it sound like I'm any type of a detective or anything. I've been looped in with the Southern California N Club, which some people be like, that's a thing. Like there's a Hyundai N Club.
Dude, there's clubs for everything, man. There's probably clubs for everything.
There really is, but I've been looped in with the SoCal N Club for a while, for about a couple of years now, and they're really good about kind of letting folks know about different events, and they're actually they've been pushing a lot to have some more integration with actual like Hyundai's corporate marketing entity here in the U.S.
So they're not really associated with Hyundai, or are
they're
they not?
They're sort of an affiliate of it, but they're not, they're not a direct entity of it, if that makes sense.
Kind of. So basically, like Hyundai will say we like whatever. So this N Club does something that Hyundai doesn't like. Mm-hmm. They're kind of free and clear. You can't blame Hyundai for something they do.
Yeah, like they because again, the membership is not even necessarily something where it's like, we pay a membership fee and like we have like this, it really like it's their motto is simple. It's like if you own an in-car and you're in Southern California, like you're a part of the club. And so obviously with that open door policy, like you don't know who's a part of it. So yeah, if somebody goes out and does something crazy and, and it just causes this big uproar, like that Hyundai themselves are not liable for that.
Okay.
So they have a way of still supporting because the track record for, these in clubs, which, really I've learned, particularly from this event, span the whole US. They actually flew a handful of people out from basically the admins from different portions of the in club throughout the states, from Texas, from, Pennsylvania area, North Carolina, New York, some different areas. They flew those admin out to this specific event as well. And so it was a combination of, open to a handful of SoCal in club members, and then the admin that they flew out here from other parts of the states. And it's just crazy to know that, like, some people have argued that, like, Hyundai isn't like an enthusiast brand. Like, it's still trying to become an enthusiast brand, but it's not quite there yet. But it really showed that, like, this spans a lot bigger than just like a few folks that are like into their Hyundai N cars.
So what are the lineup for the Hyundai N car series? You went to Hyundai's website. What do you got?
Yeah, right now, I guess maybe backing up a little bit, they really started out with the Veloster N.
Do they still make that?
No, they don't. Yeah,
so that's got a cool car.
They started the game with the Veloster N. People really love that car. It really kind of started the brand off, that series of the brand off in the right spot. They branched out into the Kona N, which was, they call it their sort of compact SUV, but it really just, to me, always felt like sort of a hatchback. Like it was maybe a little bit bigger than like a Golf GTI or something like that. But
and is that gas or electric powered?
No, they're all usually using the same 2-liter turbo setup.
Nice.
The only difference is that the Kona N only came as like a DCT 8-speed automatic, whereas the Veloster N came as both a 6-speed manual and the 8-speed automatic.
Got it.
So you had those two, the Veloster N, the Kona N. The Elantra N came in 2022. So the original Veloster N was 2020. 2022 is when they released the Elantra N, and that's the year that my Elantra N is.
Is yours first generation Elantra N?
First generation, yeah. So they've gone through 2 generations of the Elantra N at this point. So they have sort of a facelift version of it now that started in 2024. And that's coincidentally the same year where they dropped the Kona N and the Veloster N. So right now, in terms of gas-powered cars, the only in-car that's gas-powered with the 2-liter turbo is the Elantra N.
And what's the other ones then?
So the others are more of like their future electrified in division. And so those consist of the 5N, the Ioniq 5N. So if you guys know the Hyundai Ioniq.
Yeah, that does look a little bit like a Veloster though, doesn't it?
It does. Like they still call that even like an SUV, like a compact SUV. To me, it's just like a hatchback. The biggest differentiator of the Veloster N to like a regular hatchback though is that it actually like it's technically considered a 3-door.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It doesn't have 4 like full size doors.
And that door is like a small little
and it's
locker.
Like a little,
it's like a locker door.
It's like, do you remember the the Mazda RX-8?
Yes.
Yeah.
The same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the reason why like the Veloster N was a little bit different from even like say the Kona N, because the Kona was an actual like 4-door compact. I say hatchback, but they say, compact SUV. But yeah, so you have the 5N, which is a fully electric EV, they call it a sports SUV. And, those, they come with, 600 horsepower out of the gate. And then they have boost buttons.
Most EVs get that much horsepower.
Yeah.
Though. It's not, when you say EV and 600 horsepower, it's like, I mean, don't they all get that?
To have one. Well, I will say though, like the Mazda, the Tesla Model 3s, Model 3 performance, gets you like towards that point, but like kind of more standard model, like, Model 3s actually were less than that. They were like, around like 500 or so, which again, like saying, like,
anybody driving a gas car their entire life,
yeah.
that sounds like a big accomplishment. 500 horsepower or even 300 horsepower sounds like a lot,
Keep in mind, though, these things are heavy. Like even
that's
like
true. That is true. So they are heavier than a car, heavier than a gas car with an engine.
Usually, like for like, you're always going to be heavier
even with
from
fluids?
Like the equivalent. Even with fluids, you're going to be heavier for an EV than you are with the gas powered car.
I have to look that up. I have to look that up. I was kind of curious about how much how much more it weighs. Like an EV version, an EV version compared to the gas-powered version of the same vehicle. Like how much more weight do you actually get? I know you get more power, obviously, all that stuff, but I just kind of wondering how it all balances out, or does it even balance it all in the end? Because if the electric version, although it has more power, it weighs a bunch more than the gas version, which has less power. But in the end, I guess, but I guess electric's probably still quicker off the line because
it's quicker. Torque. It's the thing that you can't beat. You can't beat is just the acceleration off the line. Like that initial torque of like an EV is just something that we just have not. Unless it's like a crazy performer, like ICE combustion engine car, we just haven't. We can't do it. It's just there's something about just being able to have all of the torque all at once that make these, EV cars off the line just like unbeatable almost. Like,
so did you get to race these cars when you were up there? What'd you guys do?
No, so it was basically just a drive. So it started out actually. I think I mentioned to you like they kind of blew my mind. They started out with a catered breakfast and had some little events kind of going on early in the morning. But it was essentially kind of a tour around LA. And when they did this for like the Midwest areas and different things like that, they also kind of picked a certain area where they wanted to kind of tour and have certain highlights and certain photo opportunities in like these key locations. But we basically took a drive up Mulholland Drive, if you're familiar. Beautiful. I haven't been for a long time, and I actually didn't really remember how just scenic that drive really is, how high up in the mountains you are and how you literally are almost looking down on like all of Los Angeles in certain points. But they took us all the way up, Mulholland Drive up to Griffith Observatory. There was a little photo opportunity. They had some drones like waiting for us at a certain point coming around. I think it was near where the Hollywood sign is. They had some drones like waiting for us to come around and take photos. And then once we got to Griffith Observatory, we kind of stopped off, had a little break, got a chance to mingle for a bit. And then they had us go all the way up to the observatory. It was blocked off so that they could ensure that we all could kind of have our chance to go across and take a picture as we were driving past the observatory. And then we came down, and then that's when we kind of made our way back to the main event that was at this company called Race Service in Los Angeles. But it's basically just like kind of like a little in parade, I guess you can call it, throughout LA.
So do they have like a front car and a back car? How do they keep it all together and stuff?
They we were talking about maps, Google Maps and everything. They so with Google Maps now, and I'm sure you can probably do it Apple too, is they programmed like all like the little stops within within Google Maps, and basically just had us scan a QR code that fed into our own Google Maps. And each time you got to a different point of the map, you just press continue and you just go to the next point. So really, they didn't necessarily have like a lead car. They just gave us the route. And obviously, since we were all going as a group, whoever was kind of, the lead car, we were following them, but we all had the map. So, anybody could have been the lead car if they wanted to be, but they were kind of entrusted. And there were a couple of the marketing guys that kind of, came along too. So they were the ones that tend to be like towards the front of the pack. But they basically had us give us all the tools to make our way through the routes and get to our certain points and things like that.
Oh, interesting. So you all just went on this big parade, and then when you got to the final destination, then what'd you guys do when you got there at the final place?
So when we got back, we did, the final spot was the same spot we started.
Oh,
but,
so a big giant loop then. It wasn't like you
big
started
giant loop.
Okay.
Yeah, but they had kind of transformed this area that they did, this called Race Service. It's I think it's kind of like a tuning company, but they have these. They had a couple cars under like some black tarp that they were kind of revealing later, which we found out were the Elantra N TCR edition. It's basically just a special edition of the Elantra N that kind of commemorates their race series and TCR. They've been doing really well in that series. Won't go on a tangent on that, but they basically have created sort of not a homologation, but just like a addition to celebrate that they've done really well in that series. Ioniq 6N, which hasn't come out fully yet, but they're
spoiler alert.
Right, yeah, hasn't come out fully yet, but they have revealed a lot of information about it. It's essentially the same as the 5N in a lot of ways, but just with now it's a sedan as opposed to a hatchback. And then there's some other.
But is it the same wheelbase though?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Sometimes they'll do that. They'll like make two versions of the same car, but really it's like the same chassis and
it's the same chassis. Just the form and factor.
The body is like, oh, we're gonna add a SUV. That's how they do with a lot of these smaller SUVs, like these compact SUVs. They'll take their compact car and they'll just make an SUV unibody version, same chassis and wheelbase and engine, transmission. Everything's the same. The guts,
to get us off of maybe talking too much about Hyundai is, I mean, I'm sure you appreciate this, is Infiniti and Nissan did that heavily back in the early 2000s, mid 2010s.
The VQ engine was in everything.
The VQ engine was in everything. Obviously, the transmission was in everything as well. But the chassis was shared between the 350s, for each generation, like the 350Z and the 370Z, they were shared with the equivalent G35 and G37. And then they were also shared with the M35 and M37 and the FX45 and FX35. They literally, all of those cars were all on the same chassis. Most of them had the same engine shared between the two, except for the FX. They actually had a V8 version that they didn't offer in like the Gs. But yeah, Infiniti, Nissan, like they took that to like the next level where it's like, we're going to build like pretty much our whole catalog of cars off of this chassis, this engine, and this transmission platform, which I really think that's why they were such a great company back in like the early 2000s, early 2010s. Because
I think
they were just able to dial things in.
Right. That's when the new CEO, Gosen, came in and like changed everything.
Yeah, just changed. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, but I'm saying that I think that's when he came in and flipped the whole thing around, because I remember they were kind of hurting around year 2000. I remember seeing a concept drawing of the 350Z. I saw one at the auto show. They didn't have and I saw they showed the concept drawing of it, and it looked like kind of. I mean, not obviously not exactly what it looks like now, but I mean, it had the same kind of chiseled lines and had like that the way it kind of designed the front end and the way it was kind of setting. I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool. My dad looked at it, he's like, that's stupid. It's like that's dumb.
Really? Yeah.
Well, he's like, he wants something that looks more like. I think because it looked the concept looked too futuristic. It had very sharp edges and sharp lines, and like it looked like a ruler slice here, ruler slice there. It was like a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's like, oh, that's stupid or whatever. Kind of a thing, but he also wasn't a visionary. He wasn't an artist or visionary or appreciated cars either. So him a car is just a mode, it's to step above a bus or whatever.
Yeah, yes, so, but form way over, or was it a function way over form? Maybe.
Pretty much. So, but I remember seeing it then, and that was back in probably around 2000, maybe I'm guessing, probably whenever they were going to announce the new Z before they had the Z come out, but.
Big question for you on that front. What made you choose, and it might be an obvious answer to this, but what made you choose the 370 over the 350 when you had yours?
Okay. My initial thought was I'm going to get a 350, right? Because I saw one. I love the 370 and 350. I've always loved them. And when I finally bought one, I had a chance to buy one. I was like, I was at a gas station doing a delivery, and I saw somebody with a 350 pull up in there. And like, oh yeah. A 350s. Let me check those out. I look on Auto Trader. I couldn't find any. If I did find them, they look pretty beat up and whatever or something like that. And I'm like, 370. What if if I can find 350s, let's see if I can find some 370s because they are a newer car. I figure a newer car, less problems. The 370 is supposed to have more power. It's supposed to be more refined. It's supposed to be have more, just better overall, better suspension, wider, lower, that kind of stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, let me see if I can find some 370s. That's kind of went down the search of 370. I just kind of went for the search of I figured the newer one's supposed to be better than the last one. And that's kind of why I went that direction. But now thinking about it, if I want a fun, hobby car, a fun car that's going to be my, I guess, project car, I'd probably maybe get a 350. I looked at them too. The problem is they're hard to find ones that have been wrecked.
That's wrecked, overly modified, and this is real tough to find one. There was a while back where there was on one of the auction sites where one came up, and this was back when I had my both my M35 and my FX 45. I was like, wouldn't it be super cool to kind of have almost all of the Halo cars kind of from this era? And obviously it's kind of sort of jumping to the other brand with going with Nissan, but it was the same as the G35. And so I was like, oh, that would be super cool. And there was just a completely stock 350Z that came up on an auction site that I think ended up selling for $7 or $8,000 or something like that.
Dude, if you get it closer to $5,000, less than $10,000, I think it's good. Was it a manual or automatic?
It was a manual.
That's even rarer. A lot of these are automatics and stuff. I've seen some convertibles automatic come through, and I was kind of on the eye for them for a while, especially after I bought my 370. I was looking, oh, I got 370. Why don't I get a 350 too? And I'll have both.
You have both.
So I was looking at. I'm like, I'll have both, whatever. And I think the common sense kind of kicked in. I don't need three. I don't need three cars. I barely drive two as it is. But I didn't have a place to put it either. Where do I put the third one? I don't have a place to put it.
We don't even worry about that. We're like, yeah, but more cars though. That's what our mind thinks. It's
I went through that phase. I went through that phase with ATVs.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I've
never ever been on an ATV
or
a motorcycle.
Really?
Really, for that matter, yeah.
Really?
Never.
Well, you can drift the ATVs. You can do donuts and stuff. You also can roll them over too. But yeah, when I got divorced from my wife a long time ago, I had some money and I went kind of nuts, and I started buying things I hadn't had a chance to buy before. And so I bought one quad for me, one quad for my son. Then I bought another one. So I had three ATVs that I bought. I was keeping at the house that I was renting, and I had three of them, all by Honda, by the way, coincidence. My first ATV was by Yamaha, and the last three I had were all by Honda. And I had one of those in good condition. I took them over to the motorcycle shop, had them do the full tune, oil change, do the whole 9 yards of the thing on one of them. And then the other two I had them done too, and the other ones too. But I would always go to the desert every week. I was going out there with them and riding around and doing all that kind of fun stuff. I was actually looking at pictures today about that kind of stuff because we're kind of in the thick of it all with desert season. And But yeah, I just have three of those things. It gets addictive. You buy one, and then I was on Craigslist or whatever it was back in the day, and I saw another one pop up, and I'm like, yeah, that's an idea. Maybe I bought another one, and then eventually I had to move, and I sold them. But yeah, it can be addictive if you have the space and you have the money, and you see one, you want another one, and then you want another one.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to put the brakes on, but I mean, it's cool that you're able to experience that because that's that's like I said, that's a realm that that off-road, true kind of off-roading is something I've never really experienced too. It's like a different world for sure.
It definitely is, and it gets expensive too because I remember when I was out there with my other first quad, and I thought I had a 350, which is the engine size, a Yamaha 350, which is kind of a mid-size ATV.
Is that in C? Do you know CCs or
if you round up the whatever 3,500 cc or whatever, I think it's what it is.
Okay, gotcha.
And so no, maybe it is 350. No, maybe it's 350 cc. That's what it is. It's 350 cc. So that's do these numbers. So it was 350, 250, 350, 400, 450, 700, 750. I don't think there's anything bigger than that. Once you go anything bigger than that, you're getting those miniature little car things, cart car things, those dune buggy kind of things. You get into those things.
Yeah.
And so when I'm out there and I thought I got, a cool new motorcycle ATV, the 350, and you got guys rolling in there with Honda 400s, 450Rs, YZF 450s, which are fuel injected, and they got all the extras, exhaust pipes. They got all the coolest stuff. You're like, you ain't cool, because there are people out there that are going to show up with 50 grand with the crap they're riding around on, it's unbelievable how much money people have. You see dune buggies with like LS swap engines, and everybody in the dune buggies got those like helicopter headsets. They're all talking to each other on the headset because you can't hear each other in the dune buggy because it's all so loud with the big V8 roaring down the road and big tires. And they've got trailers and motorhomes that look like some celebrity lives in them, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It can get so crazy expensive. And I guess the same thing goes with probably Hyundai and N cars and Mustangs and whatever car you have. If you think you're cool, you go roll up to the Cars and Coffee, and then there's somebody that rolls up there with another 50 grand worth of stuff that you don't have in your car.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, at some point, like, I mean, you can kind of follow the trend and, try to, the old term, keep it with the Joneses.
Oh, 100%, dude. Yeah.
You can do that. Or, at some point too, like, I think we come to terms with like, this is where I'm at right now. This is enough for me. And like, I'm going to kind of stick to that. And I've definitely, again, yeah, to your point, like, you can see some guys in whatever car community or whatever community, even like, where they for sure that they dropped a pretty penny to get to the point that they are with whatever modifications or whatever it is that they've done. But it's, when you kind of know that, like, this is what I was after, I got that, like, I don't necessarily need to make that next step just because somebody else did it. Like that's kind of a safe spot to be in. And to be totally honest, like, yeah, we struggle with it all the time. Like I struggle with it all the time. It's like you see something and it's like, yeah, well, maybe I should think about doing that. Like something that just completely wasn't on your radar at all. But, at a certain point, I think too, like it's a good spot to be in when you start taking that step back and saying, yeah, that's awesome. Like I like that, but this is where I'm at right now.
It could be a maturity level too. I think as you get older, maybe you start to realize that you don't really need like as long as you enjoy the car or whatever you're driving or riding, if you enjoy it and it works best for you. And then when you start to go out these other communities, like you went to the N community club and I went to the desert and clubs like that and stuff. And you see all these other people and all these crazy, crazy toys. You're like, man, it's like your eyes are blown back, and you're just like, wow, look at all this money being spent, all this stuff, and then you start looking at your own vehicle, like, well, maybe if I can do that to mine, maybe I can add that to mine, and that's how I ended up buying my first quad in the first place. I went to the desert. And we rode around out there on borrowed quads. I'm like, this is kind of fun. Maybe I should buy one. And that's literally that same weekend after I went out there and saw all the fun stuff, I was like, I should buy one. I kid you not. The very next, when I got home to town, I went to the motorcycle dealership and looked at them and bought one. Just like that.
Yeah.
And I fell into the trap. Dude.
It's influence for sure, man.
But
it is kind of an open door to, again, I say in the sense where like, yes, like, sometimes we do got to kind of maybe curb our ambition sometimes, but I think sometimes we kind of get led in that direction, and we meet awesome people because of like a door that was opened by us, being a part of a community. Like, just think like if I didn't buy, an in-car, like, there's some people that, again, that I've met, even through the social media journey. Like, there's one guy on the East Coast that we've messaged each other and we've watched each other's videos on YouTube, but never physically met each other. And we've met each other this weekend. And, that would have never happened if we weren't both a part of this, kind of community. And so, I say it's kind of twofold. Like, sometimes, getting into something and taking that step forward and getting into a community of people that are in that same realm, like you tend to meet some cool people around that too and build some cool stories around it. So I don't think it's all bad.
No, I'm not saying it's all bad either. I'm just saying like when you start to envy other people's stuff and you start to see like, I'm going to like do that to my car and then I'm going to do that because they did that to totally keep up with the Joneses.
That's a trap.
And you start thinking like dumping money and doing different things, but is it really making you happy, or you just think it's making you happy? And I think that whatever vehicle you drive or ride or whatever, I mean, at some point, it's going to be pretty content with what you have. But I know there are people that go over the top. They're always upgrading, always throwing more money. Like every year they're doing some new modification. Like they have to do something to the car. They have to keep modifying it. But at what point does it become a clown car or whatever? You know what I mean? Just throwing everything at it, like it becomes too much. But if you want to do that, go right. It makes you happy. Go right ahead. But then at some point, maybe you're like, well, change cars, do something else. I've done everything I can with this car. Now I'm going to jump to another project. That's fine too. That's fine or whatever. And I think, did you see any crazy modifications of other N cars at the N event that you were like, damn, look at that thing?
Yeah, no, there were definitely a few. There's one couple actually that they used to be pretty active on like YouTube and things like that. I think maybe taking a little bit of a step back as of recently, but the build that they have for their Elantra N is like completely different. I feel like from the typical style that you see because they call really the Hyundai, Kia, like anything that's getting into like modifying that scene of cars is like KDM as opposed to JDM, like
because Korea.
Yeah, so Honda, Toyota, Nissan, they were in that JDM camp, but now with the Korean brands coming up and rising, you got the KDM scene that's kind of popping up, and I would say that the KDM scene is just kind of an evolution of the JDM scene. A lot of the style of modification is kind of carried over to that, but that one particularly, it's got a wide body kit. They have chrome multi-spoke wheels where you normally see more like painted, either like anthracite gray or black or silver wheels. They've got like kind of chrome multi-spoke wheels. It's on air ride suspension, crazy body kit lip in the front and in the back. No wing, which is pretty interesting to see on an Elantra N, where normally you go bigger than the stock wing.
Right.
It actually has no wing. So it has like a little duckbill spoiler and that's it.
I kind of like those. I kind of like the duckbill.
Yeah. Yeah. It was unique. Like I stood out to me just because it's like totally different from like the typical Elantra Ns that I see. Either to be totally honest, they're like completely stock, which is cool. Like it's a car that is great to leave completely stock. I left mine completely stock for 2 whole years before I did anything to it. But then I feel like a lot of times the step forward in modifications tend to kind of be pretty similar. Like there's kind of a similar look that people go for if you're just talking aesthetic modifications that people go for in terms of looks. And that was completely different. And so I looked at that and I was like, wow, like it was well executed. It was well put together, but it was something that was totally different from a lot of what else I was seeing. And so, that was definitely a cool one to just kind of see and experience and just, see how somebody brought something totally different to this platform.
And that probably made you like gravitate towards that because it is different than seeing all the normal stuff that you see on these other Hyundai Elantras.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you get into like performance modifications though, there's some folks doing some pretty crazy stuff with these. I was talking to one guy that's he's upgraded the turbo on his and he's done some other like internal work to the engine as well, but he's right now he's experiencing some little quirks and issues where he's not pulling his like full boost rating for the car. But when he has it fully dialed in, his anticipation is that with the new turbo, that he'll be able to push about 25 to 26 PSI.
What's horsepower to the wheels?
He would expect somewhere around 380 to 400 to the wheels. What
is the most powerful 2-liter 4-cylinder car on record? Like what's the highest horsepower output has anybody ever gotten out of a 2-liter?
That's a hard point because with modifications there's just a lot of people doing crazy things,
but have you heard any crazy numbers? I'm not just saying with Hyundai cars, but any 2-liter.
Yeah, just in general. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna cheat because I'm in front of my computer, but the new C63 AMG Mercedes, and it just came to mind because I was literally just listening to something on this car, but they basically moved from having like a big V8 to basically a hybrid 2-liter turbo setup.
But hybrid's got the electric stuff too, right?
But yeah, that's a good point. But the turbo the turbo engine itself had like an output of somewhere upwards of like 400 horsepower
Oh,
on its
wow.
own without the electric motors. I have to look up the
Okay.
exact specs themselves, but yeah, like in terms of, again, modifications, people do some crazy things, but in terms of just like out of the box package, like from the manufacturer, we're starting to see some 2-liter turbo or 4-cylinder engines in the 400 range, which is pretty insane.
Wow. Take that, big V8. Take that.
It's a sad thing because I know we joke about it all the time. I love, quote unquote, seeing your memes. I'm giving you a little bit of a grimace over here, but
No, but it's fun. It's all good fun.
It is for sure. But no, but I do like I love V8s. Like and to be honest, like I if like the world had to only be one, like if it had to be 4 cylinders or V8s all day, I would choose V8s because they just have this presence. I had a chance to check out this old Trans Am, like the early 2000s Trans Am, and the guy started the thing up and like literally the whole car, like you see the whole chassis sort of twist when you give it a little bit of a rev, and like you don't really experience that with a 2-liter turbo.
and just the feeling of the sound it makes too.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was working for a company, they were building demolition cars for a demolition derby, and the rules of demolition derby, the car had these old crappy cars from like the 70s. I forget they were, but they had these V8 engine in them, right? With no like carb restrictions at all. So you got the basically the engine and maybe headers, and like that might be it. Maybe a pipe that kind of runs out the side or something underneath right by the front door kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the little warehouse shop, fired the thing up, give it a few revs, and it was so loud. It just sounded like a NASCAR or something, like it has that loud V8 sound because there's no modifications or whatever. It wasn't seem like a high performance car. Engine. I think it's your base V8 engine or whatever,
Yeah.
And just hearing the thing with no like restrictions on a V8, there's something to it. When you hear it, you don't forget it, and it sounds great. And I don't think you can quite do that with a 4-cylinder.
No, it's just a different nature. Like I do really enjoy, and I can go on a huge tangent about this. Is like cylinder count contributes to like this noise, that like each one has their own characteristics in terms of how they sound, and like again, even like the amount of kind of reverberation you can get from like a certain cylinder range. Like V8 really does kind of own out king, like in terms of like what it sounds like and being distinct. And a 4-cylinder it can't compete with that. But I do know that there's like some great sounding 4-cylinders that can, kind of have this deep sound and like this deep grumble. Like if they rely a little bit more on maybe like the aggressive, like the pops and the gurgles and things like that to kind of match maybe like the intensity of a V8. But it's definitely different. Like it's not you can't really compare the two in the sense where like again the V8 just wins out every day, and just like this feeling that it's like almost in your soul when you hear like a real like loud V8 rev. Don't even talk about like when you get into like V10s, V12s, like they got their own distinct things as well.
Oh yeah.
And going back to like the even the V6s, like the 350 to 370 are they're still like kind of known, and even like the GTRs, like their V6s are still known to be like legendary V6s. And you hear some that just sound absolutely amazing. Like to toot your horn, like I told you when I heard that video about with your 370, like that thing sounded amazing. Like there's ways to make those V6s sound really great. They aren't quite on the level of a V8, but in their own respect, they sound really good. And so it's it's kind of that, like it's almost to each your own, like where they can sound really good in their own right, like when compared to each other. Yes, like there's ones that I would take over others, but it is pretty impressive where we've gotten with 4 cylinders, even some cars with like 3 cylinders, like the GR Corolla
Toyota,
Yeah, it has a 3-cylinder that makes like 300 and some odd horsepower.
How's that even possible? Like physically, like I'm no physics professor, but how's that even possible?
That's the question we got to find somebody else to answer. That's
Are they like really big pistons? You think in that thing? Are they like a 3-cylinder, really big pistons?
I mean, I feel like smaller engines really rely on, again, stout construction and, great materials, but also they rely on boost.
Oh, of course, you're gonna boost the crap out of the thing.
Boost is really like, because you're never really gonna get like, unless it's really built like, forged internals and everything. Like you're never really gonna get like an NA 4-cylinder to ever produce that amount of power. Or obviously a 3-cylinder. And, even like, the straight sixes, I think back to like the 240Zs where like you'd have people that like now they build those out and like completely go, internal with forged internals and everything. And, they sound amazing, but they're complete linear power, but they have a max. Like there's just so much you can do.
I don't think you have a car like that to try to win the horsepower numbers.
No, you're right.
That's right. Not, or the drag strip numbers. There's certain cars where you have them because you enjoy them and they're a classic piece of history, and they're just a fun car to drive. It's not all about getting the most horsepower or going 0 to 60 or doing the quarter mile or whatever you got to do and how fast you want to go. Some people just want to just drive the car and enjoy it, and it sounds like you got a really fun driving your car around with other Hyundai N people and having, just a good experience. It sounds like a wonderful place to go. It sounds like a great time. It sounds like a great. Now, the big question I have is there any YouTube videos coming out about this? I think there would be, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Can't quite give a time frame.
No worries.
But yeah, there would definitely be some content around it because it just has to be documented because it was a really, really great event.
That's fantastic, man. Well, Courage, man, I appreciate you stopping by and sharing all about your crazy event and your amazing event up there in LA and your travels up there and you riding around in your Hyundai N. And is there any last words you want to say before we let you out of here today?
I think honestly, you've given the listener maybe something to take to heart is if you're into cars, you got a cool car, you're looking for a cool car, find something that really resonates with you. Don't try and find something that you feel like is going to be cool compared to what's around you or whatever. Like just find something that's cool to you that resonates. And if you decide to modify, like just modify for the right reasons, not to be the fastest out there, to have the most horsepower, but just what gets a car maybe to the point that you enjoy it.
That's right, man. Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you so much for listening at home. And you want to find out more, go to coolcarswithchris.com. And I will see you on the very next episode.